So as you know, it was a beautiful summer's day. It was in June 2008. I found myself on this marble-clad top floor of these offices in the heart of Amsterdam, the financial district in Amsterdam. It was my hometown. I was wearing my mom's dress and shoes. I was highly uncomfortable. And I was wearing those, and I traveled there because that day was an important day for me. I was going to sign the employment agreement with a top law firm that had offered me a job as a trainee lawyer. I was intimidated, not gonna lie. It was the decor, it was the room, the whole building, everything there was impressive. And so when the time came for this lovely HR lady to slide the contract over this massive oak table to me, she said with this knowing look to me, you know, take it home, have a read, sleep on it, let me know what you think, right? And you know what I did? I just laughed. One of those extremely awkward, high-pitched eruptions of total nerves and surprise, because what was there to talk about? What was there to think about? I had worked so very hard to get to that point. I'd been offered a job by the best firm in my country. It was a dream come true. And besides that, the money was insane. It was more money than any of my friends were making. It was more money than my mother was making. And so, besides the excitement, there was a bit of anxiety, there was a bit of awkwardness and nerves as well. I had this little voice in the back of my head that said, what if they change their minds? What if they retract the offer? What if they find out you're not that good after all, right? And so I signed straight away on the dotted line, didn't negotiate a thing. Now fast forward to 6 months later, when I found out that all of the other people in my cohort were making more money than I was. The boys specifically. And I'd like to think that that is not because they were better than I was, or that their backgrounds were more impressive. I'd like to think it's not even because they were men. It was because they had asked. And so, the problem was, right? You can probably see, especially when you've found yourself ever in a similar situation to me at work, that for me, it was problematic. The money was still good, right? That wasn't a problem. But you see, your salary is more than the figure that they transfer to your bank account every month. Your salary is also an expression of the value that the company places on the work that you do, right? On you as a person, in effect. And so by paying me less, probably without realizing it, but my employers were telling me that my work didn't matter as much as the others. And so that made no sense. I was working 100 hours a week. Why would I give and give and give when, you know, the people who took and took and took clearly didn't care so much about me, right? And so with all of those questions burning in the back of my head and in the pit of my stomach, my work started to suffer. It was increasingly difficult to keep up the energy and the enthusiasm required for those insanely long days when clearly this was a one-sided love, right? And so ultimately, I couldn't keep it up and I left. And of course, this isn't just me. This scenario plays out in countless organizations across the world, right? It's a huge issue that affects many people, the majority of them, women. Women are starting out in jobs, in careers, bringing so much value to the company, but they are not negotiating their salaries or any aspect of their job offers. And, I mean, clearly, or importantly, we've done research on this. Professors Babcock and Leshiever from Carnegie Mellon University, they've shown that only 7% of women negotiate their first offer versus 50% of men doing that same thing. And recent research by the headhunters Robert Walters showed that more than 50% of women have never negotiated for a raise throughout their careers. And these women don't know, like I didn't, that you're expected to negotiate. They think, like I did, that they'll just start in these jobs. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna work really, really hard, and then I'm gonna show them what I can do, and they're gonna see that, and they're gonna appreciate that, and then they're gonna pay me. It's sweet, isn't it? And so, when that recognition, when those rewards then don't automatically follow, because that's not how business is run, people, they lose that enthusiasm and that inspiration. When they see Bob down the corridor, who isn't necessarily better at their job, but he always seems to talk about it, right? He gets the promotion, it stings. When they yet again don't get a salary raise despite working their asses off and bringing massive value to their companies, right? A little bit of them dies inside. And so you might be wondering, why don't they just ask? Right? Why don't they just call for a meeting with their boss and just say, I'm being underpaid, give me that raise, or I'm ready for the promotion? Why don't they start the conversation? Here's the thing. The reasons for that are complex, but in short it comes down to this. Boys and girls are raised differently. Unlike boys who are taught to stand up for themselves, to take risks, to speak up, right? Girls are taught to be compliant, patient, to think about others first. And so girls grow up being uncomfortable asserting themselves. They grow up not being exactly naturals at speaking publicly about their accomplishments. And so it comes to pass that when they then hit the workforce, they're not exactly good at standing up for themselves, speaking up for themselves in those conversations. But also, and we really need to think about this, women are judged differently from men. Much more harshly, for sure. There is research to show that when women speak up in the exact same assertive way as men, using the exact same words as these men, they're penalized for it. They're considered arrogant, bossy, called the B word. Nice. No wonder women struggle to assert themselves, right? To ask for that pay rise. It is a very difficult tightrope for them to walk. And so they stay silent, they stay static, they get unhappier every month, every year. And that is bad for them. And it's also bad for business. Employee turnover in the workforce, in the modern workforce, is at an all-time high. The US Work Institute has calculated that 27% of employees voluntarily upped and left their workplace last year. And they've estimated that it's going to go up to 35% by the year 2023. Let me reiterate for emphasis what I've just told you. 1 in 4 people in your company will quit and leave. Let me add some more numbers to that. And before I do that, let me explain to you why they do that. Predominantly, there's a couple of reasons why they leave. It can be unhealthy work environment. It can be a lack of cultural fit. But the main reason why people are leaving companies is below average compensation, especially for top achievers. And because of what I've just told you, right, about not negotiating their careers, their salaries, I would bet that a large number of that is made up of overachieving women. And as I said, I want to share some more numbers with you to make the business case. It cost a company please listen to this. It costs a company between 100 and 200% of someone's annual salary to replace that person, with outliers going up way higher than that. It is the largest hidden cost in business. It is hidden because most companies don't have the kind of systems in place to track all the tangible and intangible costs that are associated with, staff turnover, basically, right? It's things like recruiting them, finding them, interviewing them, advertising them, training, onboarding, all of that. And that's even before we look into factors such as lost business, lost network, loss of productivity, right? If you add all of it up, it is staggering. And so, put simply, any business would do well to try and avoid incurring those costs for their businesses. When you stop your women from leaving because they feel undervalued, you are in fact saving your company a lot more money than you would if you're simply overlooking that pay rise for them. And this leads me to the idea that paying your women workforce more, even when they are not asking for it, is a sound business decision. It is a prudent financial choice. Let me leave you with the story of Anita, one of my clients at Women in Negotiation. Anita came to me incredibly unhappy. She had been working for years in the same company, driving business, making great results happen. She was awesome. But all of that had gone unnoticed because she never talked about herself. She never talked about her accomplishments. She had never asked for recognition, like a promotion or a raise. And by the time she came to me, girl was fed up. She was done. She wanted to leave. But we worked together. We did some crucial mindset work together. We worked on strategies. And she learned to raise her hand, ultimately. She found the confidence that she needed to communicate her job capacities. She found the skills to actually show her employers what she was capable of doing. And so she called me, I'll never forget it. She called me up one morning. It was like 6 a.m. her time, it was super early. She called me up and she told me that the night before she had been promoted. She'd had the big conversation. She had been promoted. She got her team. She got a 45% salary raise to boot, which was great. But you know what's so funny? As she was talking, right, she said, Wies, you always say it's not about the money. You're so right. I don't care about the money. She said, this is what I care about. And so she turns her laptop around, right, and with the camera shows me her desk. And it's full of these graphs and these lists and these plans. Basically, it was a massive brain dump that she had been working on all night. She had all of this energy, all of this inspiration because of the conversation the night before. And this is the bit that always gets to me. She said, I've had these ideas for years. I didn't think anybody cared. So here is my very rhetorical question to you. Who really won giving her that 45% salary raise? Sure, it was good for Anita. I mean, 45%, that was game-changing. But I would venture that ultimately the company benefited way more from Anita showing up with this inspiration and this excitement and this enthusiasm, right? Girl couldn't sleep, that level. And so tonight, this talk, for me, is a call to action to all of the women employees in this room who have never negotiated their careers and their salaries. It's time to have the conversation. And for all of the employers and all of the managers in this room, if you want your women workforce to step up in that same massive way as Anita did, then have that damn conversation. Speak with your women. Ask them what they can contribute. Ask them how to do that best, and then pay them properly for the value that they provide. You will be amazed how bold and brilliant your women workforce truly is.